Yo guys, what is going on? JPS back for another video, and today we're going to be reacting to 5 ways British and American movie theaters are very different. Now before we get into this, I want to apologize for yesterday's video. I am obviously not dropping out of college. I really appreciate all the comments and support I got. I put that title as a joke to kind of mess around, but obviously I didn't explain it in the video, which I thought I had, but I didn't. So I apologize for that. I know I freaked a bunch of people out, and I know a lot of you took some time out of your day to write some supporting and encouraging comments, and I really appreciate them. I've tried to respond to as many as possible. But yeah, I had a great time towards the end of the year, and definitely going to be returning next year for my second year of college. Just wanted to clear that up.
In Britain, I always got the sense that we perceived this American reaction to blockbuster films as quite unusual because the actors aren't actually there to receive the applause.
What?
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to movie theatres/cinemas. We'll get onto terminology later. But as somebody who's been frequenting cinemas since 1987, when I went to see both Superman 4: The Quest for Peace and Masters of the Universe, 2 films criminally overlooked by the Academy, I've had my fair share of experience of cinemas in both Britain and America. And while cinema complexes in both countries do have things in common, such as the smell of popcorn and human there are also some subtle and not so subtle differences. Now, cinemas, of course, have taken something of a hit during the COVID-19 pandemic, but in the event that reports of their death are exaggerated, here are epic ways that British and American movie theatres are very different. I suppose the first difference that I noticed when it comes to cinemas was that some of the cinema chains that I was used to in Britain either don't exist in the United States or just aren't as prominent. Back home, if you're looking for a multiplex cinema, you'll want to Google one of the big 3: Cineworld, View Cinemas, and Odeon. In the United States, the big 3
Regal, AMC
are completely and utterly a little bit different. Those are Cinemark theatres, Regal Cinemas, and the really big one, AMC, which happens to own Odeon in the United Kingdom. Personally, as somebody who doesn't choose his cinemas by brand name, but rather by whether they're showing the film that I want to watch, I don't really have a preference either way, but I know that humans, being humans, probably do have strong feelings on this, so let me know in the comments below. One thing I can definitely say about both British and American cinemas is that they both do pretty well about showing the other country's films. So for example, as a kid, I went to see Back to the Future 2, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Police Academy 6, while in America, I and many other people went to see the likes of Philomena, The King's Speech, Bridget Jones 3, Shut Up. But there's one thing, for various reasons or another, that often gets changed: the title of the film. Down the road, I do intend to do what Americans call a deeper dive into this, but to whet your appetite, here's a brief list of films that were released under different names in Britain and America. 2017's Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales was rebranded in the UK as Pirates of the Caribbean: Salazar's Revenge.
Why?
On the other hand, the 2001 British-made film The 51st State was released in the United States as Formula 51.
I love how in the British like cover you have like a clock tower, I don't know, and then this classy car, and then here we just have an explosion.
Bye, Joel.
Bye.
Have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
That's my mom. But yeah, in the British one, so this is pretty funny. I like how in the British cover you have this tower and then this nice classy car. It's the same car maybe. Christ. Alright, so this is pretty hilarious here. We have a nice classy tower and car. Very proper looking. Actually, they have the same thing on. But we do have explosions in the background. This guy doing I don't know what. And they changed the name to Formula, of course, you know.
Owing to the perception
Expected.
that the original title would somehow be offensive to American audiences.
It
Because
might.
in this context, the expression 51st state refers to America's perceived dominance over Britain. And, you know, from experience, that's how most Americans see our relationship, so why on earth did they change it? One that's quite personal to me, having lived in the US state of Indiana, is the film Hoosiers. But because the term Hoosiers is a demonym for people from Indiana and is little known outside of the United States, this feel-good sports film was renamed Best Shot in the United Kingdom. And I only discovered recently that a film that was released when I was a kid called Bigfoot and the Hendersons was released under the slightly different name of Harry and the Hendersons in the United States. Now, there are an absolute boatload of different title variations, so if you would like to learn more about these, subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when I begin my deeper dive. And then, of course, there's the very important question of cinema snacks. And for Americans visiting Britain, don't worry, we do popcorn, hot dogs and soft drinks, although probably at a smaller size. Some cinemas will also allow alcoholic beverages. I suppose the major difference that really stood out to me was the type of candy and or sweets, as well as pre-packaged savoury snacks that you can pick up at concession. In America, you're more likely to find Doritos than you are KP crisps. And when it comes to chocolate snacks, both countries might do M&Ms, but Britain also rolls out the Maltesers and various Cadbury products.
Yeah.
Whereas the US has a line of candy that I'd never heard of before moving to the United States. So things like Milk Duds, Raisinets, Whoppers, Bunch of Crunch, and of course, Reese's Pieces. Now,
The alcohol thing, though, like, that's never going to happen in the United States. Just
one thing that separates British moviegoers from their American counterparts is the way they show their appreciation for a rousing major blockbuster. In Britain, if we love the film, we don't really do anything except sit there in silence with an upper lip that remains as stiff as the acting in the Twilight Saga. We walk out and then we talk about the film in glowing terms. In America, it can be different. I remember at the end of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a film that is universally loved and isn't divisive whatsoever, everybody in this Indianapolis cinema just stood up and applauded and cheered like they were at a baseball game. I take that back. Nobody cheers at a baseball game. They just, you know, talk to each other and drink beer. Now, I should clarify, this reaction isn't normal for most movies, right? You're not going to see a whole room of people stand up and applaud the King's Speech, although I did because, you know, Britain. You get 'em, George. But the big blockbusters with ultra-intense fan bases do tend to bring out that reaction.
Oh, yeah.
In Britain, I always got the sense that we perceived this American reaction to blockbuster films as quite unusual because the actors aren't actually there to receive the applause. And it gets me wondering, right? At the end of my videos, do Americans clap? Don't answer that. I don't want to know either way.
Yo, I might start doing that. But hey, I definitely agree with what he's saying. It's so weird, but it happens. Earlier this year, I went to see the Spider-Man movie in cinemas because they had just come back after being hit by, you know, COVID and everything. So I wanted to go out and see a movie after like 2 years. First of all, that movie was terrible. It's unpopular opinion because so many people liked it. It had great ratings. I did not like it at all. But at the end, everyone stood up and started clapping, and those same thoughts were going through my head. Like, no one's on stage bowing down. There's no stage. I mean, there's movie theaters around the country doing this. Like, I don't know. I guess it is kind of a cool experience, though, because everyone's clapping. But, like, personally, I didn't clap. So I didn't like it.
And we can hardly talk about the differences between British and American movie theatres without discussing the words that each country uses to navigate it. Firstly, there's the building itself. Throughout this video, you've heard me interchangeably use the words movie theatre and cinema. Cinema perhaps being the most prominent word for this in the United Kingdom. While in the United States, where cinema is used to a lesser extent, movie theatre is more common. It's worth noting in this case that theatre is famously spelled differently from how it would be in Britain, where we've retained the old French spelling. However, even though I knew this difference when moving to America, I was surprised to find that America often retains the old French spelling when referring to the type of theatre that has a stage with actors who can appreciate your applause. Of course, Americans might also simply say, "We went to the movies." And for me, an equivalent of this in Britain is when we say, "We went to the pictures."
The pictures.
Because, you know, a movie is just moving pictures.
I mean,
either way, there's a pretty good reason that Brits are less likely to say the movies or movie theatre And that's because we're less likely to use the word movie itself. Instead, we often refer to a movie as a film, or less commonly, a flick. And there are two other cinema-related words that are less commonly used these days, but were all the rage when I was a kid. The first is a word to describe a break midway through a film, in which, you head to the loo or pick up extra refreshments, ideally not at the same time. In Britain, we always called this the interval, whereas in America, it's known as the intermission.
I've never had an intermission during a film. It just goes all the way through. If you need a pee, it's at your own expense. You miss out. So, I don't know.
And time was when cinema going was so popular that people would line up down the streets just to get in the building. In the north of England, a common refrain for this was, "We had to queue up around the corner." Whereas in America, it might be something like, "The line ran for 3 blocks." Contrary to popular belief, by the way, this likely didn't inform the origin of the word blockbuster, which seems to have derived from the name of an aerial bomb capable of destroying whole blocks of buildings. And, maybe that gives rise to why people describe things like Superman 4: The Quest for Peace as a box office bomb. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you frequented cinemas in either countries and what your thoughts were. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at...
Alright, well, that was a really good video. He definitely nailed the things about American movie theaters, obviously because he's lived in Indiana, which is right here. But, yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching, and let me know, when was the last time you went to the cinema and what did you see? I'm actually I think I'm gonna go to the movie theater this week. I need to check out some movies, bro. Sometimes, like, when I was in high school with my friends, we used to go to the movie theater and we used to watch like just horror movies every time. It'd be like just a random horror movie like Annie or like some doll. We would scream like obnoxiously just for fun, and then people would get mad because it's like whenever you walk into a theater and you see a bunch of kids, you're like, oh, here we go again. That's exactly how the other people felt. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Like I said, really appreciate the support on my last video. I'm sorry to anyone who I feel really bad because a lot of people really believe that, but it's not your fault. That was completely on me. So thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.